We need to get real for a moment and talk about Kingsman the Secret Service. And to do that, I think I need a drink. Damn it. To start, I think I need to first recommend this film. Kingsman the Secret Service is a 2014 action-adventure comedy directed by Michael Vaughn, who has also worked plenty of other successful films such as Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class, and stars Colin Firth, Taron Egerton, and Sam Jackson. It's a really fun and enjoyable movie, a satire on spy flicks, which is a genre or subgenre of films I particularly have no taste for. I'll admit, the first time my friend mentioned seeing this movie 3 years ago and telling me it was great, I was pretty uninterested. Mainly due to my distaste for spy films altogether. Hell, before he mentioned it was a spy movie, I was convinced Kingsman was some sort of fantasy epic. Yeah, it isn't uncommon for movie trailers and sometimes entire movies to blow under my radar. And I attend the movies quite often, too. Usually the guy sitting alone in the front row who moves as much as a corpse. I digress. And actually, I didn't get around to watching this flick until about 2 months before the posting date of this video. That same friend decided to show me the first film a week or so before the sequel came out in 2017, which we both did go to see in theaters after I was thoroughly grooved with the first Kingsman. Its sequel was lacking, I found, and not as good as the first, but I enjoyed it enough. I rarely dislike any movie-going experience, but I don't want to talk about the sequel. I need to talk about the ending of the first film, however. So if you haven't seen Kingsman the Secret Service, I recommend it as a really lively and fun movie. And now I'm going to spoil its ending, so get the hell out. Unless you've seen it, or won't, or like being spoiled, I guess. So midway through the movie, we discover the insanity of Sam Jackson's character Valentine's evil Bond villain plan, shown spectacularly in the greatest, most memorable action scene in the movie. In fact, I can't stress how much I love the church scene. Every time Freebird comes up on my playlist, I can't help but think of this scene and probably always will. So his evil plan is to use people's cell phones to broadcast an audio signal to send the owner and everyone in a 20-foot radius into a killing frenzy. It's very much like the unknown pulse in Stephen King's novel Cell. We see how great an effect it has on the whole population of this crowded, extreme right hate church with a mortality rate to be near 100% with the exception of being Colin Firth's character Harry having slaughtered his way through the whole of the church. It's violent, shocking, very tense as we see one of our heroes having no control in doing the unthinkable. And one thing more I have to mention in the film before I get to the climax is that Valentine has also created a sort of null switch in the form of a chip he has implanted in the base of the skulls of many celebrities, politicians, people of power, and plethoras of henchmen he has chosen as his select few. One of which is the President of the United States and his cabinet, I believe. These chips basically make the signal not work on whoever has been implanted, but moreover they can be used as a device of control, as Valentine can set the chips to overload and pop off any one of their heads if he so chooses. So the movie progresses, and we understand the stakes now. They stop his plan, or millions upon millions of people will be killed. The movie works great because the threat is taken seriously, and because it's taken so seriously in its world, I, the viewer, can't help but be perturbed by what comes next. He sets off the thing, and people start killing each other. Shocker, I know. So it becomes a race against time to stop him. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm used to seeing action movies stop before too much damage is inflicted by the main villain. There are exceptions, and it turns the formula on its head, and is very refreshing, and that is the best word to use for Kingsman the Secret Service, refreshing, but I can't help to feel sick to my stomach when I think about it. The first time the device is turned on, yes, the first time, the signal seems to broadcast for several in-movie minutes. We are shown several scenes of people worldwide brutally attacking each other, including one visual of a double-decker bus ramming through a crowd of people. There is also a tense scene where Eggsy's, Taron Egerton's, mother is savagely trying to break through the bathroom door in which Eggsy has informed his mother to lock his toddler sister inside in order to protect it. It's tense and suspenseful. It works very well. And that just so happens to be when my fear peaked. The second time the signal's on, it isn't on as long as the first, but the death toll is still devastating. But our heroes prevail, and Valentine is stopped. Rejoice. Even Eggsy's young sibling is spared. The day is saved, and our hero gets the girl in a very tight exit of the film. Except the real horror has just begun. Yeah, Michael Vaughn thought I'd laugh, gasp, and enjoy myself, but that's far from the truth. Well, I did, but I was also sick to my stomach. He didn't count on this paranoid and pessimistic mind to fill in the blanks. First, this is not a happy, job well done, everything is back to normal ending. There are literally hundreds of thousands of corpses just laying in the streets. There are population centers, which are mass graves. There are bodies floating in the water parks. There are red skid marks all up and down the avenues. There's blood on the classroom chalkboard. People are dead. I want to imagine this signal in the movie world is active for a combined total near 10 minutes. It could be more, it might likely be less, but I don't think so. And it doesn't take 10 minutes to veer your car into a crowd of people, or beat someone to death with the nearest blunt stick, or a beat cop to draw his firearm and start blasting. The body count has to be in the hundreds in the first few seconds of the signal broadcast. In the earlier church scene, the whole place is wiped out in about 3 minutes. Granted, most of it is Harry doing the work because that guy could give John Wick a run for his money. But those people are mainly resorting to strangling each other with the odd totally legal to own gun or two and don't have access to motorized vehicles as we saw the double-decker bus used later on. Then you have to think about the scene with Eggsy's mother trying to kill her infant daughter. Clearly, people don't care about the relationship to their victims when under the effect of this signal, and will even attack children and the elderly. What I'm saying is, yeah, it's great that Eggsy's mom didn't murder his sister, but think about every other goddamn family that didn't get the message to lock up their children and loved ones. How easy would it be to crack open a child's skull in the corner of the kitchen table? I don't know, do you, death row inmate watching this? I imagine it's not too difficult, and kitchen knives are a thing in people's houses. And when the switch is eventually thrown off, think about all the families permanently traumatized by the brutal deaths of their loved ones, a good number of which at their own hands. All the orphans, all the parents who can't stand the mental trauma of killing their own children and take their own lives, all the couples who tear apart their partners and have to live with that, all these people who are fortunate enough to still be alive but unfortunate enough to have to live with anything they did. And humans are not rational beings when they are devastated. How many blame others for the deaths of their loved ones? Does a radically furious parent kill the teacher who, without control over their actions, killed their child with a pencil in the middle of a geography lesson? How much of the population now suffers extreme mental illness over these events? The communities, the families, stumbling through their streets, which even after the bodies are cleaned up, the memories haunt the asphalt where blood had soaked, dried, and eventually washed away from. A new age of fear, paranoia, and anger, and we haven't even touched on the entire collapse of society yet. I mentioned the chips Valentine had implanted in all the celebrities, politicians, and people with power, right? Well, Merlin, Mark Strong's character, sets all those chips to overload during the climax in order to aid Eggsy. Worldwide, we are treated to the spectacularly hilarious and very pretty explosion of all these people's heads. I'm not joking, it's pretty as hell. The explosion creates pretty much a fireworks display of bright colors that erupt from the necks of these people. The whole scene is shot like a display, and it's really cool to watch. And come on, at least these people are so cartoonishly evil that they throw an end of overpopulation party, and we don't give a damn if they die. But even their deaths have consequences. Many of these people, like I said, are politicians. I swear this includes the President of the United States and his cabinet. All these powerful, evil people are suddenly dead and gone. Good news for any country whose despot leader is now just a stump above the shoulders. Maybe. Because there are many countries without leadership now, including the United States. How much the Senate still exists, the UN, that really frees up the military leaders whose forces weren't decimated because Private Ryan used his cell phone to call home to his mama and the frenzied troops made a run for the armories, to step in and assume martial law. How many wars of opportunity break out? What about crime waves? Is there a civil war in the states as certain states make a power play to take control of all the others? This fictional world is going to hell in a handbasket. I mean, what total loss of public order? What vast loss of population? What mental health pandemic? Look, Eggsy is totally going to have anal sex with a kidnapped princess. Ha ha, he said the thing Harry said before kicking major ass in a bar. See you in the sequel where the world is totally back to normal and there are no consequences. We even bring Colin Firth back from being shot in the head. I'm not seriously critiquing this film's ending. I really like this film. I just really overthink the realities in these movies I watch, and this one was so comically overblown that when I explained to my friends how messed up it is, they must have thought of me as a crazy person. I was so distressed by this ending that I stayed up until 5 a.m. that night thinking about it, which I don't regret. Now looking back on it, yeah, I don't regret it at all. In fact, my reaction was so over-the-top bonkers, that same friend decided to introduce me to a little dark science fiction show called Black Mirror. Don't get me started on that work of stomach-wrenching, dread-inducing art. I still highly recommend this film to anyone who hasn't seen it. It's great fun, and I really dig Sam Jackson doing the whole supervillain thing again. I kinda wanna watch Unbreakable now. But it would probably be better for my psyche if I watched something uplifting. I once watched The Notebook with a girl. She thought it was a beautiful and sad movie. I watched in horror for over an hour as two actual psychopaths developed an insane and twisted love story. Yeah, I'm done now.